Alright folks, welcome back to the channel. Look at this. Does it get any better than this? The sun just disappeared over the mountains. I am on Forked Lake in the central Adirondacks, and I am not RVing. I have my tent. I haven't done this in a while. But this video here, I just got my campfire going. This video here, I'm going to do the second edition of questions around the campfire. So follow along. So these questions I answer are questions that have been posed to me on YouTube or my Instagram or my TikTok, or have been asked to me in person as people have seen me. So I only have 9 of them, and I answer them the best I can. But so let's get going. The first question is, I've been asked, how much money do I make off my social medias? Well, the ADK man only has 3 social medias. Of course, YouTube, you're watching it right now, Instagram, and I have a TikTok. That's all I have. I am not monetized on any of those platforms. So I get $0. Everything from the cameras to the tripod to my computer software to edit videos, I bought personally. I've never made any money off any of my channels, and I know I can monetize on YouTube, but I don't know if I can monetize in the other 2. Is it something that may happen in the future? It may, but we'll see what the future holds. The future seems to you make plans, but those plans seem to change a lot. Question number 2. Now this one here was a good one. I don't think you're going to get the answer you're thinking, but what is your most embarrassing camping experience? So I had to think about this one for a little bit, because at first I was thinking, I don't think I've ever been embarrassed out here camping anywhere. And I was thinking, I've never backed the camper into a tree with a bunch of people watching. I've never backed it into a tree anyways. I've never, dumped my tank and had all the poop come out at my feet or anything like that. That would be embarrassing. But I do remember one event, and this would go back almost 30 years to when I bought my first camper. I was in a group. There was a bunch of us from the fire department that had our girlfriends and our wives, and at the time I didn't have a girlfriend or a wife, and so we were in this group and we would all go camping together, and we would go to the same campground. We might not get sites next to each other, and we might be spread around depending on where the sites were. Well, that was my younger years. I would have been 26 at the time, I think, and well, one of the campers was where we would have the campfire and drink, and another one would be where we would have breakfast, and another one we would have dinner. And so I had my little pop-up at the time, my first camper, and we were over at one of my buddy's campers. He had a big 5th wheel, and we got into it. We tied into the beverages, which reminds me, I'm out here in the middle of nowhere, and I still brought couple of Twisted Teas. But we got heavily into the beverages, and it got to be, I don't know, 2:30 in the morning, and I ended up staggering back to my camper, and I went in. It was my pop-up, and I got undressed and got into bed, and it wasn't good. I was like, nope, I can't lay down, and I ended up sitting up, and I thought I was going to throw up. So I ended up going out the door, and my lawn chair was sitting there next to the camper. So I sat down in my lawn chair, and it was one like this where you could lean back a little bit, except it had the headrest. And I leaned back, and I can remember looking at the stars, and then that was it. The next morning, that wasn't the embarrassing part. The next morning was that I woke up to about 15 people standing around me. I'm laying in that chair in my underwear, and that was it. And what had happened was the breakfast campsite, I didn't show up for breakfast. So they were like, well, I wonder if he's okay. So one of the wives came walking over to my camper to check on me and found me, and instead of waking me up and letting me, hey, you're out here, get up, she went back and got everybody else, and they all came over to my site and kind of made a circle around me, and when I woke up, they were all there. So that would have been my most embarrassing moment, I would think. My most embarrassing camping experience. Yep. So, let's see. I got another sheet here. This one was, what, comma, no video for one of the biggest events in the Adirondacks, the total eclipse from April 2024? Well, yes. I did not do a video on that day, and because I was called back into service. I went from, I was asked because there were so many people coming into the Adirondacks that they were looking for first responders to stage them in various areas. And I was asked if I would do that. So that's what I did that day. I was staged at a fire station and just waiting to see if any calls would come in, because they had so many people that were going up into the climbing mountains and so much traffic that they anticipated a lot of problems. Luckily, there wasn't a lot of problems. They had hundreds of thousands of people come flying into the Adirondacks that weekend because it was on a Monday was the total eclipse. And yeah, they had a lot of people come in, but we didn't have, my unit didn't respond to any calls during it. So that's why I didn't have a video for the total eclipse of 2024. Any plans for High Peaks videos? As you could probably guess if you watch my channel, I don't do a lot of high peak stuff. Over the years, probably if you would have go back into the 80s and 90s, there would have been, but there was no YouTube back there to make videos or cell phones or anything like that. I don't do a lot of the 9, 10, 11, or 12 mile hikes. I've always said you got to know your limitations. My body over the years, being a firefighter, and something that a lot of people don't know about me is that I played semi-pro football too. And so now you pay for it. You know, you ever hear the NFL players, you know, they play for 12 years and then, you know, when they hit their 50s, their body's so broken up and everything. Well, you know, firefighters are the same way. You carry all that gear and you're in high heat situations, high intensity, high adrenaline situations, and you're constantly you know, doing that, and it takes a toll on your body. I mean, I've got an ankle that's bad, I've got a knee that's bad, I've got a shoulder that's bad, and where I had surgery on my neck, that's coming up. It's been, what, it's going to be 30 years in 2028 that I've had my neck put back together. I got a brace with screws in my neck so to hold my pumpkin head on, and so it was one of those deals that over the years I just know my limitations, and I know that, you know, carrying a backpack with gear in it for 11 miles, 10 miles, I'm gonna hurt, and I don't want to be a statistic on the ranger sheet, I guess. So I don't do high peaks right now. I'm not ruling it out for the future, but that's it. I'm not doing any high peaks right now. Next question. Any Bigfoot experiences in your time in the ADK? If not, any unexplained experiences? whether Bigfoot is real or not, I don't know. I haven't seen any proof that it is. Could it be? It could be. I don't know. But I will say, I got on video in the Moose River Plains some years ago. It was a howl, it was a yell, something like that. After I played it for a few people that have great experience in the Adirondacks here, they said it was a moose that made that. I didn't know moose yelled like that, but apparently they do. And so that was a moose. The one spot that weirded me out the most, and to this day it still does, it's unexplained to me, is back at Slush Pond. I went back there to paddle Slush Pond, and it was one of the only times that I have ever, it was dead quiet. There was no birds chirping, there was no squirrels chattering, there was no ducks out on the pond, there was nothing. Nothing was moving at all. But I did keep hearing something bang, like two pieces of wood being banged together. I got noises over here in the woods next to me. I think it's a bird. But that there, I did get on video. It's in my Slush Pond video. That's the only place that I've been weirded out where I just was uneasy the entire time I was back there. And I don't know why but I was just very uneasy. And that's the only place. Next question. This one here, they sent asking for looking for a campsite near water that's ideal for skinny dipping. Any suggestions? Well, there's a lot of areas in the Adirondacks. If you follow my channel, you know that I'm not afraid to go dipping every now and then. But if you're going to go to a state park, probably not ideal. There are some free camping sites that you can paddle to. Not very many that you can drive to. There are some, but not right on the water, that you could swim at and skinny dip at if you want to. You have to be very mindful when you get to a spot. If there's a campsite right over here and there's people on it, and that's probably not a good idea. I would not advise skinny dipping, but there are so many remote areas. Over the years of me paddling, I ran across people skinny dipping, nude sunbathing, topless. Two girls topless on Horseshoe Lake paddling kayaks. A couple on boats on Fourth Lake that I've seen. So I don't have any specific spots. I guess, you know, if you went up to the campsites up near Jones Pond, which is Paul Smith's area, and the Rainbow Narrows, I've seen skinny dipping up in there. So that would probably be the most a free site that's kind of remote somewhere. Did that one. Do you plan to retire into the Adirondacks? Well, one thing, I've talked about my body being beat up pretty good. One of the things that probably is going to hinder me is the weather. That's the colder it gets, the more you hurt, the older you get. And so that is probably I'm not gonna retire into the Adirondacks unless it's a summer place. But to be honest with you, I mean, I've talked about in a lot of my videos how back in the 1800s the Adirondacks was the elite's playground, and it's really becoming that again. These places are, they're buying land at ungodly prices, which is causing the assessments of everybody else to rise. I just got reassessed on my house, and to be honest with you, when I retire and my income drops from what it is now, I don't think I'm going to be able to live there. To be honest, I don't think I'm going to be able to live there. That's how much my taxes have gone up. And they've already gone up since 2020. They've gone up wicked since 2020. But I am just to the point where I don't know if I'm going to be able to afford to live here in the Adirondacks if I retire. It really irks me that I have friends that are down in Florida, and yes, they pay more for insurance, and yes, they have hurricanes, we have blizzards, and we have windstorms, and, but you know, friend down there that has a house that's bigger than mine, and they don't even pay $1,000 a year in property taxes, and I'm looking at you know, a mortgage payment, basically a mortgage payment in taxes up here. So that makes me sick to my stomach to say it, but I probably will not be able to retire into the Adirondacks. Next question, how come your wife never goes camping with you? Well, she does on occasion. If we are in a campground, if I'm in a campground that has hookups, water, electric, and sewer, she's there with me. That's the type of gal she is. When we got together, she went camping with me, and she did tell me that, hey, you know what? I'm not a fan of this off-grid camping. And I said, well, that's okay if you don't mind me going. And she goes, have at it. So this, no, she would not do. When I take the camper, even though I have the Opus system that can power the camper, she has gone with me with that, and it's okay, but she still would rather have a place where she can take a shower and have bathrooms and electric all the time. But she likes to run the air conditioning when it's like days like today. I mean, today was 95 degrees. So, but she does. But when I'm really doing the off-grid stuff, she's not a fan. And final question, I waited to this one because this one I like. How did you ever become a Bills fan? Well, let me tell you, this goes back to when I was 10 years old. And my dad and I, Bills game, and I didn't know anything about football. I was 10 years old, and he was explaining it to me, you know, that they get the ball, they have 4 attempts to make 10 yards, which are downs, and if you don't get it after the third one, you can either kick the ball to the other team or try to get it, but if you don't get it, team gets the ball right. You know, he was explaining everything to me. Well, I didn't know it at the time, but the Bills were playing the Miami Dolphins, and it was in September of 1980, and apparently the Bills haven't beat the Dolphins for like 10 years at that point. They did that day, and the fans went nuts. They stormed the field, they took down the goalpost, and it was just amazing. And it just sucked me right in right there, and I was been a Bills fan ever since. And it's funny because my dad was always one to watch the Cowboys and the Giants. He didn't really say either one was his favorite team, but he would always watch the Giants or the Cowboys. But that's how I became a Bills fan, and that is the second edition of Questions Around the Campfire. I have my twisted tea. I got to add some wood to my fire, and then I'm going to sit here and soak in. I mean, you got to see this. The sun's down even further. You ready for this? This is what it looks like from my site right here. I mean, isn't that awesome? And you can hear a generator hum way over here because somebody brought a generator in on the boat. Must be they have air conditioning in their tent or something. All right, folks, you watched all the way through. Thanks for that. If you liked the video, make sure to give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button down below. Continue to follow the adventure. And remember, folks, tomorrow is no guarantee for any one of us. So disconnect from that Wi-Fi, connect to this out here. You won't be disappointed.